1 year ago this week, Teen Nick launched a radical new primetime late-night schedule featuring some of the most teen shows ever broadcast in the channel's decade-long history. So what was it like to watch these new shows, and how did the first night fare? I'm going back to explore awesomeness TV on Teen Nick and Teen Nick's short-lived Primetime Shake-Up from last summer. Ever since its September 2009 relaunch, Teen Nick has descended ever deeper into being a rerun and burn-off channel for Nickelodeon's live-action series. And while I'm as interested in watching the 3 millionth rerun of iCarly as the next post-millennial, it's our generation's friends, don't at me, I would rather see the channel with a more diverse schedule that better speaks to the teen demographic so mentioned in their name. Can these two dueling concepts coexist with each other? Of course they can, but that's not what this video is about. This video is about having a look at the Teen Nick schedule that was, from mid-July to mid-August 2019, seeing both how they fit within the grand scheme of things on the channel and how they fare as shows in general. First though, I've got to briefly run over what exactly happened to Teen Nick's summer 2019 schedule. This follow-up has been pretty long overdue. The new lineup started off on July 15th, 2019 with great promise, but didn't even get through its first week without several schedule changes that began to hack away at. By July 18th, the airing of Made at 8 PM was gone, and on July 20th, Parental Control, which occupied the 1 AM hour, and the repeat of the Awesomeness TV on Teen Nick block at 2 AM were both sculled. In place of those latter 3 hours were a re-extension of the Nick Rewind block, now with more repeats of the same few shows, because Nick doesn't already have a block like that. My Super Sweet 16 lasted longer, making it for a few weeks on the schedule before getting dumped. What remained of the lineup took its final bow on August 11th, 2019. Nick Rewind consumed the rest of the space, now running from 10 PM onward, starting an hour earlier than it did prior to the schedule changes, an hour it still has to this day. Nick was and remains awfully finicky with their schedules, and summer 2019 was particularly aggravating. Between both this and the surprise screwing of Harm Street Season 3 that happened the same week as this lineup was taking off. Despite its hasty demise, I am reviewing the summer 2019 Teen Nick schedule as it was originally announced, to be fair to all the shows involved. These reactions are all from the first night of the channel's new schedule, way back on July 15th, 2019. Again, this video has been a long time coming. None of the series on the new Teen Nick evening lineup are new, unfortunately, and some of these series have aired before, most notably Teen Wolf, so some of these shows are known quantities. However, that doesn't change that this is a big departure, programming-wise, from the Teen Nick schedule we've come to know lately. The first show on the new schedule was Made, an MTV series from the early 2010s, which takes teens with dreams and makes them into whatever their goal is. On the first night's episode, 3 girls are motivated to become comedy actresses in the vein of their Saturday Night Live idols like Tina Fey and Kristen Wiig. The show sent them through various trials and challenges as they're coached by an expert to improve their skills. In comedy, in this episode's case, their journey proved challenging, and that became especially apparent in the middle of the episode. It was interesting that a Nick promo for Henry Danger the Musical played heading out of the first ad break and into the third. One for Harm Street led into the second. It's probably because Teen Nick themselves doesn't have anything to plug aside from the Awesomeness TV block starting at 10, but it felt like it was a part of the regular schedule, which was nice to see. I also experienced a Teen Nick rarity during my viewing of the show. They played a music video after a short break. It was a country music song, so I couldn't stand the actual song itself, but it was a very surprising thing that I didn't even know they still did. It was more common a few years ago and at an earlier hour. Seeing a music video in the lineup only went to further prove that this is a side of Teen Nick we haven't seen in a very long time. Though perhaps the music video was a byproduct of the very weird ad break placement in the second half of the show. Were this MTV, the show's original home, they might have been able to stuff ads through all that. But given this is Teen Nick, they might not have had that option. It doesn't change the strangeness of it all though. Next on the lineup was Teen Wolf, a prolific MTV drama from back when MTV made dramas and not just endless reality show spin-offs. We were dropped into somewhere in the middle of the series. As not a viewer of the show when it originally aired, I couldn't tell you where. I had no problems dipping into the intrigue, however. The first few minutes of the episode set up the relevant part of the plot nicely. The whole episode centered around a list of names of supernatural beings who were being hunted for big payouts courtesy of a mysterious individual known only as the Benefactor. Team Good Guys were trying to keep those on the list safe, and also trying to uncover who else was being targeted, while Team Werewolf Hunter Bad Guys were stalking their next victims, though the Lady Hunter was antsy to go after bigger, fatter payouts. I mean targets. The show feels awfully deep and brooding, which, as largely a viewer of kids' TV, is not something I'm used to. The contrast is even starker when the show goes to break and another promo for Henry Danger the Musical airs. The bright, saturated colors and whimsical stylings of the special are in stark contrast to the dark, muted tones of Teen Wolf. There was probably more usage of the color black in that single hour of television than I'd seen on TV that entire month. The show is tough to come into, and I had a bit of a hard time following where it was going. The effects-laden transitions threw me off on one occasion as to whether a scene was a flashback or a continuation of the story. The show was hard to keep up with, so I doubt I'll be tuning in again, as I break a million fangirls' hearts. Also, lacrosse is such a white people's sport. Like, you don't play lacrosse unless you're preppy enough to already own a regularly worn rotation of polo shirts. No, we don't care who your dad is. Run along now. The third show of the night kicked off the specifically separated Awesomeness TV on TeenNick block. Batch, with an E, because TeenNick isn't trying to cop an L descriptor on the rating, self-describes itself, for the convenience of everyone trying to explain to other people, as a sketch show. Good, that's sold. A bunch of ladies I've never seen in my life do God knows what, executive produced by the current head of Nickelodeon. So that's why that's here. The show is a series of sketches with a small wraparound story that ties everything together, sort of like if All That and Walk the Prank had a baby under the format of the former. This episode was Coachella themed, and they played into every typical white girl stereotype you could think of. The Dad-Chella sketch was actually kind of funny though. While a part of me appreciates the stereotypical white girl reaching her zenith, beyond that, the show, or at least that episode, wasn't all that funny to me. Admittedly, as a guy, I could only relate to so much. I might be up to give the show another try though, which might change my mind on it. The fourth series of the night was Zach and Mia. The show introduces itself in a much less clean-cut manner and tells us the story of a nice-looking guy named Zach who has his whole life figured out. Until, BAM! Cancer smacks him in the face. Specifically, non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. Too much Roundup being used in your cul-de-sac, dude? Why is it always cancer with teen dramas? Why is it never HIV or asthma or diabetes or autism? Cancer as a teenage roadblock is so played out it's not even funny. Like, come on! You couldn't do something more original? Anything more original? Like, literally anything would be more original than another show about another teen getting cancer. Boo-hoo, woe is me. Now I'm gonna find love and meaning and purpose because that's how all these goddamn things play out. Now I know why I never graduated past kids TV. Teen shows can be so predictable. And then we meet this girl, Mia. As if this show wasn't atrociously predictable enough, she's every modern preppy socialite influencer teenage girl rolled up into one. She's even got blonde hair, for God's sake. And she's come to the hospital to have some much less consequential cancer treatment. She stops upon an empty hospital room, but I have absolutely no sympathy for her. On her first night here, Mia's loud dubstep gives her and Zach their first meet cute. Because of course it does. God, this is so sappy and cliche. It might as well be The Fault in Our Stars, but cheaper. It's all interchangeable to me. Zach goes on wistfully like your average teen dude protagonist in this kind of thing about attraction and love and finding the one, and I think I need to go to the hospital for just how barf-inducing this trash is. We get to learn more about Mia and how she lives in the aforementioned stereotype and then try to stick in a BAM moment, and oh, she has a boyfriend. Ooh, forbidden unrequited love. Oh, how will they ever be together? Mia's nurse is a flamboyantly gay black man because this show couldn't cram in any more blatant one-dimensional stereotypes already. And on the other side of the wall, Zach's secondary characters are his brother, who's vaguely a bro but we don't get to see enough of him to know for sure, and his sister, who is your stereotypical standard issue 2000s era emo/goth girl. Ugh. Zach and Mia is officially the new lowest bar in modern TV that isn't a reboot. It is so interchangeably stereotypical and played out before that you are literally wasting half an hour of your life in watching it. This show is awful and I feel awful for having put my eyes on it. It's worse than Gamer's Guide, it's worse than Billy Dilly, it's probably on the same level as Teen Titans Go. I'm seriously questioning whether or not this show is worse than Thundercats Roar, which has taken up the most awful show alive mantle in the years since I've originally seen this. Not even Pickle and Pino was this awful and blamed and basic when it comes to using tropes and stereotypes and cliches done elsewhere. And it's based on a novel, of course! That makes it so much worse. After suffering through that half-hour nightmare, I felt I deserved some ice cream. So I got some, and then came back to watch the next show in the Awesomeness TV portion of TeenNick's new evening schedule, Love Daily. We immediately jump into the story of Lizzie, a young woman taking her driving test who thinks she's just killed a kid in her mid-2000s Toyota Avalon test car. And she's got OCD! Because I guess the contrived medical garbage just doesn't let up. She's spending the start of her summer as part of a help group for people with social anxieties. Yay. Seriously, Zach and Mia was already tough enough to sit through. Can I get a break? Teenage life isn't all about coping with illnesses and problems. I swore I knew the person who played Dr. C in this show, and I realized she also played Casey's mom on Casey Undercover. Man, from Disney Channel sitcom to web series being spat out on a side channel, what a way to fall. I understand why we need to see Lizzie check and recheck and check again that yes, she has indeed flushed the toilet in the bathroom. A good rule in TV is show, don't tell. But watching it just felt like unnecessary padding. We get it. You have OCD. You have crippling OCD. I don't feel we needed 3 more minutes to establish that. When Lizzie gets to know Josh, who talks a lot but has an eidetic memory, which matches up well with her OCD tendencies, she thinks she's in love. Because of course she does. If only love was that easy in real life.
Hey, do you know if I turned off the stove?
Yes, you did an hour ago.
Take me to your bedroom and screw me.
I don't know what's worse, the plotting slowness or the absurdity of it all. But wait, there's another story? Aww. Now there's these other people, Audrey and Jake, getting their stuff back from each other. They're lying to each other about the state of their relationship. They kiss, and they're flashed back to a year and a half ago when they had their first kiss, but with all the knowledge of their relationship since. And then to other big moments in their shortish fling. As they try and piece together why they're suddenly time traveling, they recall all the little moments and feelings they had back then. At one point in their timeline, he's not feeling it like she is, and at that point, they're stuck. They have to work out their feelings and figure out why they didn't work. The whole ordeal leads up to a prom montage with a suspiciously appropriate backing track. As they come to the understanding that it's not going to work out alright, but that's okay, they're brought back to the present, where they started, and they reconsider their relationship. Love Daily is slow and plotting and ridiculous and absurd, and I've watched a lot of ridiculous and absurd things in my life. It is not as much of a waste of your time as Zach and Mia is, but you will certainly be better served elsewhere. On to the next show, the last show in the Awesomeness TV block, Guidance. It starts in the manner of sort of a Degrassi-esque teen drama. There's a dirty image being passed around on a Snapchat-like XP service, and everyone's judging the girl who's in it, Miriam Worth. She ultimately ends up in the office of her guidance counselor, who's new here and is trying to take a literal approach to her occupation and guide her through this. She seems a little out of her depth though, and given her 20-year-old anecdote, perhaps rightly so. She has a reason for her concerns though. The girl who's caught up in this is freaking rich, and her daddy's a local celebrity. With influence. So they're all running around like headless chickens trying to keep this under control, while this girl's like, oh, it's whatever. To her it is, yeah, but not to the high school that's worried about losing like $20 million of their funding. So that's the show for the next several minutes. Miriam Worth dodging catty insults and this guidance counselor trying to get down to the bottom of it to save her own butt. As she's trying to gently grill these students, the students are also grilling her a bit, trying to see what she's getting at. It naturally begs the question, who's playing who? What's really going on around here? As the mystery unravels through these conversations, it feels like I'm being slowly tugged deeper and deeper into what this mystery is becoming. As the sultry scandal only gets worse and worse for Miriam, this guidance counselor will have her work cut out for her, and we're all coming along for the ride. Each episode plays out over the course of a regular school week, like 24 on hyperactive steroids, and the formatting choice works pretty well, as it focuses the show to focus on getting to the point of everything, and it makes the bits of exposition we get beyond that all the more creative and intriguing. Guidance is the only one of the 4 Awesomeness TV on TeenNick's shows I'd actually consider watching, and it's honestly a great fit for the channel in my opinion. Or at least the channel as it was a number of years ago while the likes of Degrassi and Open Heart were still on. It fits a fairly traditional teen drama mold, but that is not a bad thing. It's become a pretty gaping hole since Degrassi ended, so seeing it filled back in for a while is actually kinda great. We exit the block and head into an hour of my Super Sweet 16 reruns to keep the night going, a show I have actually never watched. I was too young and cableless back then. Though I do notice they used the old DIN rounded ratings icons rather than the new ones at the start of this, which is a strange oversight given they were just on earlier. My Super Sweet 16 is a magical time machine back to the wilder days of the 2000s, a time of excess, celebrity, and a TV connection to an unattainable new world. As they discuss their luxurious young lives and go through and invite cute boys and work over a 6-figure budget, I'm just really enjoying the aesthetic. Rich people having epic Sweet 16 parties is actually decent entertainment, and I don't think I've realized that before. The ridiculously extravagant party turned into a bit of a disaster when one of the ladies of honor went missing for a minute, but everything worked out. The second episode of the full hour was from the far more recent reboot of the show, which brought a completely different vibe. The first episode was from 2005, this episode is from 2017. That's 2 different meanings of ridiculousness and extravagance. I'm still jealous though. Neither episode was terribly relatable, but that wasn't the point. The point of my Super Sweet 16, and shows of its vintage, is to inspire an envy of its lavishness and shameless conspicuous consumption. Deep inside, we all want a Super Sweet 16, but for most of us, all we can do is vicariously live through the rich kids on the TV screen. The 1 a.m. hour of the schedule was a full hour of the MTV series Parental Control, in which parents who disapprove of their kids' relationships try to get them to pick other people to be with that they approve of. It sounds like a really crappy idea for a show, but then again, Zach and Mia aired earlier in the night, so the bar is already really low. This particular episode is from MTV Spring Break 2007, which is one heck of a blast from the past. I honestly didn't know they still did it that late. The parents interview a bunch of potential dates, then they pick 2 people, 1 person each, to send their kid on dates with. Then the parents, their current mate, and us get to watch the 2 dates unfold. At the end of the show, the kids gotta decide, do they stick with their current boo or go with someone new? The potential exes are quite defensive when the dates are actually going on, trying to diss them and insult or complain about every little aspect of their potential replacements. Parental control is one of those weird formats where it's not the best thing in the world, but it's a decent half hour and a fairly solid format. Is it necessarily something that needed to come out of the Viacom vaults? Well, it's 1 AM on TeenNick. They've got pretty much nothing to lose. So after painstakingly watching 6 hours of television in one night, how was TeenNick's new schedule from last summer? It's ambitious, to say the least. Its ambition may have been curtailed by the later schedule tweaks, but it is still the most interesting programming choice TeenNick has made in years. Made is a solid and creative format, speaking to a more rooted and realistic level of aspiration that displays the flashier kind once the Great Recession hit. Teen Wolf, while it holds up, really should have been rerun from the start, not from a random middle episode, so perhaps people could actually be introduced to it, rather than sitting there looking confused all hour. My Super Sweet 16 is perhaps the most effortless show you could lay your eyes on. You don't really seek it out, but it's nice to watch when it's on. And given it speaks to that other kind of aspiration from before we had the visionary stuffing beaten out of us, it does have a bit of a contrast compared to modern television. But those contrasting ideas only make the show better and help it to age like a fine wine. It is a time machine to simpler days and simpler pleasures, and I am unashamed to say I am here for it. Parental Control feels very much like a forgettable product of its time, not necessarily groundbreaking or revolutionary enough to become a true classic that people look back fondly on. It's sort of television to just take up space, rather than something that's grown rich with meaning and sentiment with its age. And for the Awesomeness TV shows, Batch is meh, but salvageable if you like your basic white girl dreams come true, or if you are a basic white girl and can relate on a deeper level. Zack and Mia should not be a show that exists in this dimensional plane. It is possibly the most awful, despicable show created in the 2010s, and this is the same decade that gave us 13 Reasons Why, and it is undeserving of its existence. If you like sappy teen romance movies such as The Fault in Our Stars and 5 Feet Apart, then you will lap this up. However, if you are literally anyone else, you should not even waste your time in pressing the buttons to tune in. It is the most contrived, painful to watch garbage I have ever seen in my life, and I don't think there is a long enough string of adjectives to properly describe how horrible Zack and Mia truly is. Love daily is a very strange thing. If you can manage to suspend your disbelief enough, it might just work out for you. However, the scenarios are just too ridiculous, and while that actually makes them a bit novel, it also makes them feel especially fake and unbelievable after a while. I wouldn't expect this show to hold up through even a few episodes. But Guidance, I give my full, unreserved recommendation to. It is a great show and you should watch it, especially if you've been starving for a new teen drama to dive into. The aesthetic is great, the characters are full of surprises, and it is tough to expect what is happening next. Season 2 turns the show into an anthology and takes the format into a different direction, but it is just as good to watch. Season 3 was set to start the Wednesday after the lineup got canned. Season 2's final 4 episodes were squeezed into 2 nights to compensate. Guidance is the kind of show that TeenNick was made for. All I wonder is why it took 10 years and loads of channel drift for it to get there. The new TeenNick's schedule, taken in as individual shows, is a mixed bag, somehow managing to span the entire breadth of content quality, from the best TV in a while to the most heinous TV ever created in just a mere 6 hours. I can't call them 6 short hours, as they are very long to go through with all the way. I guess it's sort of a double-edged sword now that you don't have to. But Zack and Mia deserve to be struck down off the face of the earth and sent back to the vapid cesspool of awful TV series where they belong. I have not hated a show this hard since Gamer's Guide, and if that show were taken off of a reboot of the Awesomeness TV on TeenNick block and never seen again, I would be so much happier with it. If you want more reviews like this, make sure you hit subscribe so you don't miss more explorations from the world of television every single week. You can check out more stuff from me, like my original video on TeenNick's schedule changes from last year, up here or down in the description. I'm Benzie Johnson Jr., I'm enthusiastic about television, and I'll see you next time.